Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's wife lies about him on Reddit and really ends up regretting it. Am I the jerk for not supporting my wife's lies on Reddit? I recently found out that my wife has been posting about me on Reddit. Not just small complaints or vague rants, but full-on stories making me look like a lazy, useless husband who sits around gaming while she works herself to death. None of it is true, and now people in our real lives are starting to see these posts and ask questions. I'm trying to figure out if I'm the one overreacting here. We've been married for 6 years. Both of us work full-time. Our finances are split pretty evenly. We each pay half the rent, utilities, groceries, and we alternate who covers extras like takeout or subscriptions. When it comes to housework, I do most of the cooking and laundry. She usually handles the bathrooms and vacuuming. It's not a perfect 50-50 all the time, but it's close. We've had a few disagreements over the years, but nothing huge. Lately, though, she's been really into Reddit. At first, it seemed harmless. She said it was fun reading relationship posts and advice. Then she started posting. I didn't think anything of it until a mutual friend texted me a link and asked if everything was okay. The post was on r/relationships and it was her. No question. She claimed she was stuck in a marriage with a man who refused to help around the house, never paid bills, and played video games every night while she cried herself to sleep. I thought maybe it was exaggerated venting. I asked her about it and she just laughed it off, said it was anonymous and just a way to let off steam. I told her I didn't love being painted like that, especially when it wasn't true, but I didn't push it. Then it got worse. She kept posting, each time making me sound worse than the last. One post said I hadn't paid rent in months and that she had to pick up the slack. Another claimed I stayed up all night gaming and left dirty dishes everywhere for her to clean up. I work 9 to 5, get up early with her, and I only play video games maybe 3 or 4 hours total in a week. Usually late at night when she's watching her shows or asleep. People in the comments were encouraging her to leave me, saying I was dead weight, a man-child, emotionally neglectful. Some even offered to help her find a lawyer. She kept engaging with them, agreeing and adding more made-up details. A few of her coworkers follow the same subreddits. At a recent gathering, one of them made a weird joke about me ever doing a load of laundry in my life. It was subtle, but it hit hard. I realized people in real life were starting to believe this stuff. I confronted her again, told her it had gone too far. She said it was just her way of coping, that I should support her emotional outlet. I said there's a difference between venting and creating a fictional version of our marriage for attention. She told me I was making it about myself and that it was just Reddit. The final straw was when she posted a cropped screenshot of our texts, claiming that I ignored her all day and left her to handle everything alone. What she didn't include was that she had asked me a question at noon, and I replied during a meeting to say I'd call her in an hour, which I did. The screenshot only showed her message and my delayed reply. Out of context, it made me look like a jerk. I finally posted my own side of the story. I didn't link her posts. I didn't use her handle. I just explained the situation and shared my perspective. I even included proof of our budget breakdown, chores list, and my average screen time. People put 2 and 2 together and started calling out the inconsistencies in her posts. Now she's furious. She says I humiliated her, that I invaded her safe space, and that I broke her trust. She still insists none of it was real and that it was just venting, and that no one would have known it was about me unless I said something. But that's not true. Friends recognize the details. Even family asked me if we were having problems. She wants me to delete my post and apologize. I told her I'm not okay with being lied about online, especially when it's hurting me in real life. She said I should have supported her instead of embarrassing her. So now I'm wondering, am I the jerk for refusing to go along with her version of things? She says I'm selfish for prioritizing my reputation over her mental health, but I don't think it's fair that she gets to lie publicly and I'm just supposed to stay quiet. I get needing to vent. I get being stressed. But none of what she's saying is true, and now it's not just online anymore. It's following me into the real world. Not the jerk. She turned Reddit into her personal fan fiction forum and forgot the part where real people have to live with the fallout. Venting is one thing, but fabricating an entire narrative where you're some freeloading gamer goblin is next level weird. Maybe look into getting her therapy if she's not already. Not the jerk. She's not venting, she's cosplaying as a struggling wife for karma and sympathy points. There's a big difference between blowing off steam and straight up inventing a fake version of your marriage that makes you look like a bum. If her safe space involves throwing you under the bus, then yeah, defending yourself is more than fair. Update. Thanks to everyone who weighed in on my original post. Things have shifted more than I expected, and a lot of people were asking how it turned out. Not long after I posted, mine started gaining traction. A few people picked up on the similarities and started calling her out in the comments of her old posts. Within a couple of days, she deleted her entire Reddit account. She was furious, told me I ruined her safe space, and that Reddit was the one place where she felt understood. I asked her how lying about our life and letting strangers trash me was supposed to help either of us. She said I humiliated her and made her feel unsafe, and that I had turned people against her. I didn't know what to say to that. She had no problem dragging me through the mud for months, but apparently me defending myself once crossed the line? Since then, we've agreed to a trial separation. Her idea, actually. She said she needs space to figure things out and that she's not sure what she wants from this marriage anymore. I'm staying with a friend for now. We're still talking, mostly about logistics and bills, but not much beyond that. Part of me hopes this cools off and we can work through it. Another part of me is honestly just tired. That's where things stand for now. Not much of a resolution, but it's something. I still don't think I was wrong for defending myself. I don't hate her, but I can't keep pretending everything's fine while the internet version of me is being used as a punching bag. OP, your wife needs professional help. What happened with her is actually more common than people think. A lot of people end up rewriting reality online just to get validation or attention, especially when they're feeling lost or stuck. It becomes this feedback loop where the more sympathy they get, the more they lean into the fiction. Honestly, taking a step back with the separation is a smart move. It gives both of you time to figure out if you're really willing to keep going like this. You deserve someone who's honest and loyal, not someone who turns you into a character in their sad story for internet points. She's clearly looking for something, but instead of facing it head on, she's chasing approval from strangers. That might feel good in the moment, but it's only going to make the situation worse in the long run. She's not grounded in reality, but that doesn't mean that you can't be. Final update. Just wanted to close the loop here. A lot has happened since the last update, and I think it's time to put this chapter to rest. We're officially getting divorced. The paperwork's in, and from what I've heard through mutual friends, my wife's slipping deeper into her own version of reality. A few people have told me she's been telling anyone who will listen that I emotionally abandoned her, that I sabotaged her mental health recovery, and that I've been smearing her online for years. At one point, she even claimed I had a secret second life and that I used her as a cover. None of it's true, obviously. It's like she's building a whole new reality where she's the tragic main character and everyone else is just there to hurt her. As frustrating as that sounds, I honestly feel more free than I have in years. I've realized that for a long time, I was the one carrying her. Not just financially or with chores or in daily logistics, but emotionally too. I thought it was my job to keep her stable, to make sure she felt heard and validated, even when it meant putting myself second over and over again. But letting go has made me see things clearly. By releasing her, I'm not punishing her. I'm giving her space to walk her own path, whatever that looks like, without pulling me into it with her. I put up with the chaos for too long, and I never deserved it. I'm not perfect, but I know now that I wasn't the villain she made me out to be. I've been seeing a therapist lately, and they helped me understand that I'd been locked in this caretaker role for years. I truly believed her well-being was my responsibility, but it's not. You don't have to keep playing a role that's destroying you. You get to choose peace. You get to walk away from the drama, not out of spite, but because you love yourself enough to stop letting someone else's spiral become your burden too. Recently, she started reaching out again, told me she was sorry, said she had been struggling and that she wouldn't do it again. She asked if we could talk. I told her I needed time to think. For a minute, I did. I woke up one morning feeling decent, and I actually considered inviting her out for coffee to talk face to face. But then something just told me to open Reddit and scroll through r/relationships. I wish that was a joke, but it really happened like that. Right there on the front page was a post that sounded eerily familiar. I opened it, and yep, it was her again. Same tired lies. She painted me as a cold, cruel husband who manipulated her online, lied to Reddit to ruin her life, and was now divorcing her because I hated seeing her heal. She made herself look like some brave survivor, while I was once again cast as the heartless villain. I took a screenshot and sent it to her. A few minutes later, the post was gone and the account was deleted. She messaged me back saying she didn't know what I was talking about and that she couldn't even find the post. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I wasn't even angry. That post was the closure I didn't know I was waiting for. It felt like the universe stepped in and said, "Nope, not this time. Keep walking." So I will. This will be the final update. I don't know what happens next exactly, but I do know this. I'm following through with the divorce, and I'm not giving her another chance. I've already wasted too much time waiting for her to become someone she was never willing to be. This time, I choose me. Fellow divorcee here, I'm really proud of you. I've been through something similar, and I know how hard it is to walk away, especially when you've been made to believe someone else's chaos is your responsibility. One day you'll look back at this whole experience and realize it was never about Reddit posts or online validation. This was a lesson in disguise, something bigger pulling you toward a deeper clarity. That's one of the most amazing things about life that most people never realize. It's literally guided. Nothing happens by chance. The more we're pulled into awareness, the more everything starts to make sense. Infinite paths open up depending on where we place our attention, and sometimes, when we're too deep in the noise, something beyond us steps in and shifts our view just enough to see the truth. You're not just closing a chapter. You're stepping into a version of yourself that trusts peace, not just survival. And that opens up doors that weren't there before. So excited for your future. Lying about someone online isn't harmless. It's character assassination with a smiley face. Yup, it's all fun and karma until someone's real life gets wrecked. The truth matters. When you twist it for sympathy, you're not venting, you're weaponizing. And sooner or later, that weapon turns back on you. It's almost like every choice that we make is a little seed that we're planting, and eventually they all grow. So the question is, what kind of garden are you growing? Reminds me of one of my favorite Mr. Rogers songs called The Garden of Your Mind. All you have to do is think, and they'll grow. I think my boyfriend is lying about being in medical school. I, 26 female, have been dating Sam, 31 male, for about 4 months now. We met online and we hit it off. On our first week of talking, he said he was going to be a doctor. He said he had tried medical school overseas years ago, took a break, then got into a better program here. I believed him. See, he had old photos from a campus abroad and a picture in scrubs that looked real enough. For the first 2 months, we saw each other on weekends. He worked full-time at an office and said he kept up with lectures by watching recordings. He never seemed stressed and always had time to hang out. It felt nice at first. No drama, no late-night study sessions. It was going pretty great, and I didn't think much of it. The small things did start to stack up, though. I spent time at his place and never saw a textbook. No notes, no flashcards, no handouts on his desk either. Nothing school-related on his laptop. He let me use his desktop computer as well, and the browser history was streaming sites, sports, and shopping. I've been a student. My laptop used to look like a cluttered desk. His looked like a weekend. He said his program was one of the hard ones. I have a friend, Jason, who finished at the same school. Jason did not stop studying for 2 years straight. He said nobody in his class could keep a full-time job. Sam worked 40 hours a week, and I've never once seen him study. I asked how he balanced it, and he said he was a good test taker, and he didn't need to study. That answer sat wrong with me. The moment that shook me was at dinner. We were talking about random facts, and he said the human ear has 30-something bones. High school taught me there are 3, so I said so. He said I should trust him since he's a medical student. I looked it up on my phone at the table and showed him. He went quiet and looked annoyed. Then I asked how many bones are in the body. He got that one wrong too. It wasn't a gotcha game for me. I just wanted the truth. That was the moment that everything started to make sense. After that, I started to test the edges without being loud about it. One time, I asked if I could sit in the back of a class. He said his school doesn't allow guests. The next week, I asked if we could meet for lunch on campus. He said you need a student ID to get past the gate because security there was super strict. I asked if I could see his ID. He said he lost it and would get a new one when classes start. Later, I asked for a selfie in a white coat. He said he didn't like how he looked in it. He sends me selfies in every other outfit, though. That answer felt like a stall. Then I asked about his schedule. He kept it vague. He said he watched lectures on his own time. He never named the courses. He never mentioned a lab. He never mentioned exams. He never mentioned rounds. He had long stories about office coworkers, but nothing specific about school. If you're actually in it, you talk about it without trying. He did not. I've tried to stay fair. It was summer break for part of this. Maybe there were no classes during those weeks. Maybe he was embarrassed about losing the ID. Maybe he did hate photos in white coats. I kept giving him room to be who he said he was, but he never proved me wrong. The part that pushed me to a line was not even the facts. It was how he reacted when he was wrong. He leaned on the title. I'm a medical student. Trust me. That was the card. If the card's real, you don't need to play it that hard, right? Edit. He's not actually my boyfriend. We were seeing each other often. I used boyfriend in the title to keep it short. Apologies for the imperfect English. English is my second language. Edit 2. I've been to his office. He does work there full time. I met coworkers. The job is not the part in question. Honey, you already solved the puzzle. If a man lies about school, he will lie about anything. A big lie needs constant care, and he will expect you to help him water it. You tried to be fair, and he used that to keep you quiet. You don't need to find a campus or check a roster to be done. Leave him now. Keep your space. Keep your peace. If he was in medical school, you'd be drowning in schedules and acronyms by week 1. You saw none of that. Your gut is not paranoid. It's protective. I dated a liar too once. Different subject, but same pattern. Big claim, no proof. Anger when challenged. After I caught him, I thought the hard part was over, but it wasn't. The hard part was the next months of second-guessing every nice thing he ever did. Trust doesn't knit back together after a rip like this. Ask simple questions and watch the answers. What was your MCAT score? Which classes this term? What do you use to study? Where are your notes? First-year students study for hours every day. The ones I know lived at the library. You're not wrong to leave. You're smart to do it sooner. Update. Thanks everyone. The response was overwhelming and the comments helped me trust myself. So I made a plan that kept me safe and calm. I would step back. I would not confront him in person and wouldn't go to his place again. I would end it clean on a video call and keep it vague. I didn't want an argument in a car or on a sidewalk. I didn't want him to spin a new story on the spot and rope me back in. I called him and said I wasn't ready to date. I kept my voice steady. I didn't list the red flags, didn't ask for more proof. I kept the door closed. He went from confused to pushy fast. After the call, he sent a stream of messages. Some sounded hurt, some sounded angry, some tried guilt. He said I was throwing away something special. Then he said he had a gift for me and needed to hand it over in person. He said I owed him a talk and asked for one last dinner. Then he asked for 10 minutes in a parking lot. He asked for anything that kept me from leaving clean. I stayed firm and I stopped replying. Then I blocked his number and his accounts. I told 2 friends and shared my location for a few days to feel safe. The silence felt strange the first night. Then it felt like air. I just let the peace and quiet settle over the next week. There are other parts of his story that fell apart when I look back. He once said he had an early lab the next day, then slept in and spent the morning on video games. Another time he said he was on campus to meet a study group, then sent a photo from his living room by mistake. None of that stood out to me at the time. I wanted to believe the best version because I really liked him. That's the part that stings. Not that he lied, that I let the lie run in circles while I tried to catch up. I'm not reaching out again. I don't want closure from him. I've had enough. I'm sad that I ignored my gut for as long as I did, but I'm also glad I didn't ignore it forever. People tell lies to feel bigger. From now on, I'll be more careful when someone starts with a big story. I'll look for steady actions instead of fancy promises. I'm really thankful to everyone who helped me see things clearly. You made me realize I wasn't crazy and that I could walk away safe and whole. You protected yourself, and that's victory. Ending on a call was smart. Not listing the reasons was smart. People who build a life on fake status love a debate. They try to wear you down and then call it closure. Blocking is not petty, it's a boundary. Hold it and keep walking. Child of two physicians here. My parents never stopped studying. Books on the table, flashcards in the car, post-it notes on the fridge, on-call charts spread across weekends. Your guy worked a full-time office job and never cracked a book. That is not how medical school works. You trusted your eyes. Good job. So he wasn't in medical school, just majoring in excuses. Yep, and his thesis was on creative lying with a minor in gaslighting. At least she passed the final exam, spotting the red flags. She graduated with honors in dodging disaster. Found out that my coworker with the same education, experience, etc. is making twice what I make. I started working at a research facility last April as an administrative assistant, making $11 an hour. It wasn't glamorous, but it got my foot in the door. The people were nice enough, and the work was steady. After a few months, I was promoted to clinical research assistant at $14 an hour. My boss said that if I kept up the good work, I'd have a shot at becoming a research coordinator after a year, and I would get a raise to match it. It sounded fair. I threw myself into the job, learned everything I could, and even finished my bachelor's degree that December. By then, I was doing a little bit of everything, handling paperwork, scheduling patients, managing data, and assisting on studies that were way above my pay grade. We were short-staffed most days, so I was often covering for 2 people. A full year passed. I was basically running parts of the department, staying late to meet deadlines, and answering work messages on weekends. No raise, no title change. When I finally brought it up during my quarterly review, my boss told me that corporate wasn't approving raises at this time. She said maybe after August, during our high revenue season, they could reconsider. I didn't love that answer, but I tried to stay hopeful. Then came yesterday. One of my coworkers, who joined 6 months after me, pulled me aside during lunch. She was venting about how expensive rent had gotten, then casually mentioned her hourly rate, $24 an hour. I froze. She and I had the exact same job title, degree, and workload. We both handled the same projects. She wasn't bragging, she just assumed that I was being paid something close to that. When I told her my rate, she looked horrified. I tried to laugh it off, but it hit me hard. I've been busting myself for $14 an hour while she was making nearly double. The worst part was knowing how strict my boss was about never discussing pay. She'd even lectured the team once about how comparing salaries could create unnecessary tension. I used to agree, but now that I knew, I couldn't unknow it. I didn't even ask my coworker about her pay. She volunteered the info, and honestly, I'm glad she did. It opened my eyes. So now I'm stuck. I've never had to bring up wages before. I don't want to get my coworker in trouble, but I can't shake how unfair this feels. I do twice the work, have a degree, and I've been here for longer. Yet I'm paid like a part-time intern. Do I confront my boss about it? Do I find another job? I'm just trying to figure out how to stand up for myself without completely burning a bridge. If you were told corporate isn't approving raises, that's your cue to start job hunting. You're already doing the work of 2 coordinators for 1 paycheck, and your boss is hiding behind corporate policy, while someone else with the same role makes nearly double. That's not policy, that's exploitation. Also, you're allowed to discuss pay with coworkers. The only people who say you can't are the ones who benefit from keeping you quiet. Look at it this way. Your company has already shown you how much they value your loyalty. You've given them a year of extra labor for free. Time to give that effort to someone who deserves it. I'm a hiring manager. Your boss failed you. A good manager doesn't make vague promises and disappear when it's time to deliver. They advocate for their people. They communicate pay structures clearly and follow through. The fact that you're handling coordinator-level work without the pay or title tells me everything. That corporate says no line is a classic dodge. Your boss either didn't fight for you or didn't care to. You don't owe them another ounce of your loyalty. Start applying elsewhere and don't look back. Update. It's been just over a month since my original post and a lot has changed. After I read through everyone's advice, I decided to talk to my boss directly. I scheduled a meeting and told her I needed a raise. I kept it professional, didn't mention my coworker, and explained how my responsibilities had grown. She said she had submitted a request. A week later, she called me into her office again. I walked in expecting a quick update, but instead, she tore into me. She said she couldn't believe I thought I deserved a coordinator position. She criticized my work out of nowhere, bringing up things that had never been an issue before. Just a month earlier, she had given me a glowing feedback in my evaluation. I realized right then and there that she wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to shut me up. I left that meeting deflated, but more certain than ever that I had to leave. Not long after, I got a text from a woman I'd met through my boyfriend's friend group. She worked at a rehab facility and said they were hiring. I decided to give it a shot. I interviewed and they offered me $20 an hour on the spot, $6 more than what I was making. I put in my 2 weeks notice. That's when my boss suddenly changed her tune. She called me into her office again, all smiles this time, and told me corporate had approved my raise. She said she really shot for the stars and that corporate had gone above and beyond. My new rate? $17 an hour. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I thanked her, told her I appreciated it, but said I'd already accepted another job. She looked stunned. The next day, she called me in again and asked what the new job was offering. When I said 20, she immediately asked if I'd stay if they matched it. So much for corporate policy. I told her I'd think about it, but I already knew my answer. I called the new job and told them about the counteroffer, and they raised their offer again. I start Monday. I've never felt this relieved. I didn't make a scene when I left, but my boss's face said it all. She couldn't believe that I'd actually walked away. For a year, she told me there was nothing she could do, and the moment I took control, she magically found the money. To everyone who told me to stand up for myself, thank you. You gave me the push that I needed. I learned that waiting around for fairness only keeps you stuck. The moment I stopped being afraid to leave, everything changed. This is exactly why you should always know your worth. Employers will take as much as you let them. The second you stand up, they panic because they know replacing you will cost them more. Congrats on the win and enjoy that fresh start. As a manager, I have to say, this whole story makes my blood boil. Your boss could have built loyalty by doing right by you early on. Instead, she waited until you forced her hand. You didn't just get a raise, you got your dignity back. Proud of you for walking away. You know, it's really amazing how fast they move when they realize you're serious about leaving. Nothing motivates a raise like watching your best worker walk out the door. My boyfriend and his friends played a cruel prank on an older couple who has lost their cat. We're both 18. I've been with my boyfriend for about a year. We're both honors students, both heading to college in a few months. I really thought we were solid. I knew he acted like an idiot sometimes when he was with his friends, but I never thought he was capable of cruelty. Last night proved me wrong. He called me and said that he was hanging out at Purple Heart Park with his friends and that I should come by. It's close to my house, just a short walk away, so I told my parents and I went. When I got there, they were all laughing so hard that they were rolling on the ground. I asked what was so funny, but none of them would tell me. Then one of them pointed at an older couple walking around the park. They had a flashlight and were calling out a name over and over, the kind of voice you use when you're desperate to find your pet. I didn't understand what was funny about that, but when the couple got closer, one of them told us we needed to leave. My boyfriend and his friend started cracking up all over again, practically crying with laughter. As soon as we got back to his car, I asked what was going on. One of them finally told me. About half an hour earlier, they had found a missing cat poster near a mailbox. It had a phone number on it. They decided to call the owners and tell them they had just seen the cat running around the park. The couple rushed over, searching the dark grass with flashlights, calling the cat's name while my boyfriend and his friends watched and laughed. I felt sick. I'd seen those posters too. They've been up for maybe 6 weeks. Everyone around here knows what that usually means. Tucson has coyotes. When a cat's been gone that long, it's probably not coming home. They knew that, and they thought it was funny. I told my boyfriend to take me home immediately. I didn't say a word in the car. I just sat there staring out the window, realizing the person I thought I knew was a stranger. Now I can't stop thinking about that couple, out there in the dark, calling for their cat because of some teenagers who thought pain was entertainment. I'm breaking up with him. That's already decided. But I keep wondering what else I can do to make things right. Should I tell the couple? Should I just leave it alone? I can't tell my parents. My dad's the kind of person who would track those boys down himself, and I don't want him getting into trouble. I just hate knowing that this happened. You're absolutely right to dump him. There's no excuse for this kind of cruelty. It's not a prank. It's deliberate emotional harm. Laughing while watching someone search for their lost pet is inhuman. The fact that he didn't even feel a little guilty says everything. You're young, but you already have a stronger moral compass than he ever will. That's a horrible thing to witness, and I'm sorry you had to see it. I agree that you don't owe the couple anything, but if it'll help you sleep better, you can call them anonymously and let them know what happened. You don't need to protect your ex's reputation. People deserve to know who they're raising. Update. I broke up with him. That part was easy and I did it over text. He said after a year together, he deserved better than a text breakup. I said after what I saw him do on Saturday night, he didn't deserve a conversation. He tried to defend himself, said it wasn't his idea, that it was his friend's prank and he just went along. I said that maybe it wasn't his idea, but I saw him laughing just as hard as his friends, and that was enough for me. Since then, he's been acting like a victim at school, trying to make me out to be dramatic. But word got around about what happened. Once people realized who he was with that night, nobody was buying his story. That part's been satisfying, but the thing that was haunting me the most was the couple. I couldn't stop thinking about them wandering that park. I knew their poster. It was taped to the side of our mailbox. I'd seen it every day for weeks. I kept wondering if I should call them. I didn't want to hurt them again, but I also didn't want them clinging to false hope. I imagined what it would feel like if someone played that kind of prank on my parents, if it were our dogs. After thinking it over all day, I decided to call. When the woman answered, I told her I had some information about their missing cat. She gasped a little, and I thought, here it comes. This is going to be awful. But before I could explain, she cut me off and said something that made me cry. She said they had just gotten a call that morning from animal control. Their cat had been found. Someone turned it in. It was chipped, and they had just brought it home. I could hear how happy she was. I told her I was so glad to hear it, and I hung up before I lost it completely. So yeah, I didn't have to tell her what really happened. The cat was safe. My idiot ex is out of my life, and I learned a really hard but important lesson about what kind of people I want around me. The fact that your ex tried to shift the blame is classic. You didn't just dodge a bad boyfriend. You dodged a future man who'd justify anything if it kept him comfortable. Stay strong and keep choosing empathy. As someone who lost a cat once, I cried reading this. That kind of prank would have destroyed me. You did exactly what a good person does. You made sure the truth wouldn't hurt them more. I hope these boys eventually realize what they did, but even if they don't, you already showed them what humanity looks like. Some people laugh at others' pain until life gives them a mirror. And in that mirror, he saw exactly what kind of person he'd become. Not a prankster, just a coward with bad company. Meanwhile, she did the hardest thing, walked away, kept her compassion, and even tried to make things right. The couple got their cat back, and she got her peace. The universe really does fix what people try to break. Am I the jerk for refusing to cook after my boyfriend tried to critique my cooking with a literal PowerPoint presentation plus final update? So this happened a few days ago, and I'm still trying to process it. For context, I, 28 female, have been with my boyfriend who's 30 for about 2 years. We live together, and I've always done most of the cooking because I genuinely enjoy it, and he claims he can't even boil water without setting off the smoke alarm. The other night, I made one of our favorite meals, and while we were eating, he got a weird smirk on his face. He then says, "You know, I've been taking notes." I laughed, thinking he was joking, but then he said, "No, really, I made a presentation." I still thought it was a joke until he got up, connected his laptop to the TV, and opened a PowerPoint titled, "Improving Our Home Dining Experience." I was in disbelief as he went slide by slide critiquing my dishes. Slide 1, too much garlic. Slide 2, pasta consistency. Slide 3, more salt, less sauce. The kicker was slide 8, which was just a photo of Gordon Ramsay facepalming with the caption, "What he'd think." I was stunned. I told him if he had such detailed opinions, he should cook himself. He tried to backtrack, saying it was all in good fun and that he was just trying to help, but I wasn't laughing. I haven't cooked since, and now he's been living off cereal and takeout. He's sulking, saying I'm overreacting and ruining the joke. So Reddit, Am I the jerk for refusing to cook after my boyfriend presented me with a PowerPoint critique of my cooking? Update. After reading your comments and taking some time to process this, I decided our relationship needed a serious talk. I sat him down to discuss how his presentation came across as not just unfunny, but pretty disrespectful. You know, typical mature relationship stuff. Well, what does he do? He smirks and goes, "Oh, I was prepared for this." He actually grabs his laptop, connects it to the TV again, and presents me with another PowerPoint titled, "How to Take a Joke, a Comprehensive Guide." Yes, folks, he made a whole slideshow explaining why I needed to learn how to chill out and appreciate humor. Slide 1 featured a meme of a clown putting on makeup with my name plastered over it. Slide 2, a bullet point list titled, "Why Your Overreaction is Hilarious." Slide 3 was titled, "How I'm Clearly the Comedian in This Relationship." At this point, I was too stunned to speak, but then he pulled out slide 6, "Things you can do while not cooking because you're mad." The audacity, right? As if he really thought he'd win me over with this next level presentation. Spoiler alert, he didn't. So I did what any rational, PowerPoint-loving person would do. I made my own. I stayed up all night crafting a presentation called "Why It's Time to Move On, a Farewell Guide." It had everything: flowcharts mapping his incompetence in the kitchen, pie charts illustrating my happiness before and after the great presentation debacle, and my personal favorite, slide 9, a gif of Gordon Ramsay yelling, "Get out." This morning, I set him down and went through my PowerPoint with the same energy he had given me. His reaction was priceless. He started with that same smirk, but lost it somewhere around slide 4. Top 10 reasons you're moving out today. By the time I got to the resources for finding your own apartment slide, he was packing a bag. Now, before anyone worries, yes, he did actually leave. And no, I didn't even have to threaten him with slide 12, which was just a photo of me blocking the Wi-Fi router. So yeah, we broke up, and I'm single, happy, and cooking meals for myself without any critique except my cat's judgmental stare. And to those who said I should make a breakup PowerPoint, just know your wish has been fulfilled. I still can't believe how all of this went down over the course of one single weekend, but I now feel pretty good about myself. Thanks for all your comments and support. Oh, and fun fact, some of you are right. He actually is a business consultant, so making PowerPoint presentations is quite literally his day job. I guess he took bringing work home to a whole new, unwelcome level. I'm contemplating divorcing my perfect husband over pants. We got married quite young, and it's been 20 years since. He's a good dad to my daughter from a previous relationship, and we're raising our younger son together. He's supportive, he cooks, he cleans, and he takes care of our home. He even makes time to date me, which I appreciate. The one issue that's persisted over the years is his temper. If something doesn't go as planned, or if he's irritated, he'll start yelling, not directed at anyone in particular, more like shouting into the void, if you get my meaning. And just as quickly as it happens, it usually passes. When I was younger, I could tolerate it and brush it off, but now it's really starting to bother me. None of us are perfect, and I used to have a bit of a temper myself, but with time, I've learned to think before I act and to handle my emotions differently. Recently, my closest brother lost his battle with cancer. On the day of the funeral, things started off on the wrong foot. My daughter and I were almost ready to leave when my husband decided to get in the shower. I figured it would be quick. He's a guy after all, and usually doesn't take very long. But then he noticed his jacket was wrinkled and tried to use the steamer, which didn't work. He started yelling at it, getting frustrated, so I went and ironed it for him. He was supposed to drive, but then he couldn't find his keys or his hat and gloves, leading to more shouting. When we finally got into the car, I realized he was wearing dark blue jeans instead of a black suit. I pointed out that my mom would be upset if her son-in-law showed up to the funeral not dressed properly. That set him off again. He stormed back into the house, yelling, and returned wearing pants he complained didn't fit him. At that point, I decided to drive instead. I was exhausted by his antics already. As we were leaving, he realized he'd forgotten his wallet, so he got out of the car and stomped back into the house again. When we finally made it to town to pick up the flowers, we were already 20 minutes late. While walking into the shop, he suddenly turned around, looked me in the eye, and hissed that he'd rather split up than ever wear uncomfortable clothes for anyone else's sake again. I was stunned. The funeral was a blur after that, and I don't know if I cried more for the loss of my brother or the loss of my husband. Now I feel numb. I can't see a way forward. I understand that he may have been grieving too, but I feel like he crossed a line, and I'm not sure I can forgive him for how he acted that day. He hasn't said a word about it. No apologies, no explanation, no checking in to see how I'm doing. He's just ignoring the fact that, for the first time ever, he threatened to divorce me over a pair of pants. Edit. This situation has escalated more than I could have imagined. To clarify, no, he's never mistreated us. He doesn't insult us during his outbursts. It's just a way of coping with difficult situations. His response is to shut down, which doesn't help either. We don't tiptoe around him, and he doesn't need me to get his ducks in a row. Usually, when he gets loud, we jokingly ask if he's building something. It's hard to convey in a short description, but it's not as bad as it may sound, and that's not just me saying it. Our generally happy life makes it hard for me to ask for help from friends. I'm also a bit reserved, and since our culture doesn't encourage sharing personal matters or going to therapy, I thought I'd share my problem here. And yes, I have considered divorce. When he hissed at me, my first thought was, then why wait? Let's split now. I'll definitely talk to him about therapy options and figure out how to move forward from here. In the past, when I pointed out things he needed to change, he made an effort. So I think this is overreaction on both sides, and it might have more to do with grief than who we actually are as people. No, I'm sorry, but if there was one day to keep his toddler tantrums to himself, it was the day of your brother's funeral. He sounds emotionally immature, and he couldn't step outside of his little daily issues to realize that this crap doesn't matter, and he needs to keep it together for you. He let you down big time. When it mattered, he was more concerned about his ill-fitting pants than causing you any more emotional distress than you were already going through. You needed him, and he made a hard day even harder. I understand why you feel like you can't come back from this. You were in pieces, and he took his anger out on you. I feel heartbroken just thinking about this situation, to be honest. Am I the jerk for refusing to quit my job because my boyfriend thinks the corporate world is soul-sucking? I've been dating this guy who's 27 for 2 years now. He's seriously anti-corporate, constantly going off about how capitalism is ruining everything and how anyone working a normal job is just brainwashed. Meanwhile, I, 25, female, am actually doing pretty well in my office job. It's not my life's passion, but I enjoy it. I'm good at it, and it pays the bills. About a year ago, he started really pushing me to quit my job. According to him, I need to break free from my slave mindset, and as he puts it, find myself. He keeps going on about how we could live this carefree, spontaneous life, following our souls, with no responsibilities. He has this vision of us living off the grid, totally independent. But whenever I ask him how we'd actually make it work, he gets super vague and just tells me I don't understand what true freedom is. There's never a real plan, just going with the flow. A few days ago, he gave me an ultimatum. He said either I need to quit my job and wake up to real life, or he's done because he's tired of dating an office zombie. To make it worse, he claims that my so-called chains are stressing him out and holding him back. I tried explaining that I actually like the way my life is. My job is steady, and it's my paycheck that often covers our rent and food, not his random side hustles. When I told him I wasn't going to quit, he stormed out. Now half of our friends are telling me that I'm missing out on a once-in-a-lifetime chance to live my best life, while the other half think he's just trying to guilt-trip me into abandoning everything for his fantasy. So, am I wrong for choosing stability and not dividing into his free spirit lifestyle? Because honestly, it feels like someone's gotta be the adult here. It sounds like he's the one draining your resources and holding you back. Free time isn't that fun when you have $0. Set that free spirit free. I mean, alternative lifestyles are cool, and I'm envious of them often as a fellow corporate drone, but they also require a pretty rare set of circumstances to work comfortably. You either need a well-paid freelance or influencer role or a good amount of startup capital. He may hate capitalism, but at the end of the day, money makes the world go round, and he'll find true freedom without any cash is a difficult path to walk. I'm also confused as to what you're missing out on by breaking up. What is this dude providing that literally anybody couldn't provide? You could decide a week after dumping this loser that you want the van life, and then it would be open to you to pursue that, without this anchor on your finances. Am I wrong for buying a house and only putting my name on the deed? I've been with my girlfriend for over 3 years now, and we've talked about how it would be great to have enough saved up in the next 5 years for a house deposit. Well, last month, I got a pretty decent inheritance, enough to either buy a place outright or at least put down a big deposit and get a mortgage. So I brought it up with her, mentioning that with this money, I could get a house sooner rather than later. But I also told her that since I'd be funding it, I'd want to put it only in my name on the ownership. She wouldn't need to pay rent or anything like that, just chip in for utilities. She thought this was unfair since the plan was always to buy a house together. I suggested a middle ground. I'd pay the deposit now, then she'd cover the mortgage until her payments matched my deposit, and we'd put both our names on the deed. Or, if she preferred, we could wait until we both had enough to go halves on the deposit. She wasn't keen on either of those ideas and argued that since I have the money now, We might as well get a house together and stop wasting money on rent. I repeated that if we did buy now, I'd want to be the sole owner unless she's willing to contribute through a mortgage to match my deposit. But she still felt that it should be both of us on the deed, regardless of who's putting in the cash up front. I pointed out that I'd offered several options where we'd both eventually own it, but she seems to just expect a straight-up joint ownership without having to put any money in up front herself. Am I wrong for buying a house and only putting my name on the deed? You're the jerk. My boyfriend and I planned to buy a house together, and he ended up pulling this same stunt, deciding eventually that he wanted it in his name because he was the one making the down payment. Long story short, I'm no longer with him. If you're committed to me and we plan to buy a house together, my name deserves to be on that house. By not putting my name on it, you're basically saying that you want the option to throw me away whenever you feel like it. Sorry, but I deserve more than that. If you're not serious about your relationship, then just let her be free to go find someone who will be glad to put her name on the house, because you seriously sound like you have commitment issues. No jerks here. This seems like more of a relationship issue than a financial issue. Sounds to me like she wants the commitment. Maybe she's thinking that if you're not willing to put her name on the house, then you're keeping her at a certain distance. 3 years in, marriage could be on her mind, and that could be influencing this decision. That's a tricky topic to address. With my wife, I didn't hesitate putting her on the house. She didn't pay any of the mortgage. I didn't care because I planned on spending the rest of my life with her. Just some things to think about. Not the jerk. I was in a similar position a few years ago. Fiancé threw a huge fit because I wouldn't put her name on the house I was buying with my own money. She didn't work, and I'd provided for both of us for years. It was a nightmare getting her to leave once I caught her cheating and finally had enough. She told me she wouldn't leave and I'd have to call the police if I wanted her gone. They weren't much help. I still had to legally evict her, which took months, and during that time I had to deal with her daily tantrums, her breaking stuff, throwing things at me, etc. Police never took any of my calls seriously since I'm a big dude and she was very petite. They literally laughed when they got here, thinking it was funny. I never did any of that to her, but you know they wouldn't have been laughing if I had. Eventually she was gone, thank God, but if I had put her name on the house, like she had tried to force me to, I would have had to sell it and give her half of the money. Now she's with another guy, and I pray for him every night. Lord knows he's going to need it once she shows her true colors. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
Does anybody remember back before people completely lost their minds?
Am I the jerk for telling my best friend that I'm pregnant? I, 33 female, have been in a close relationship with N, 31 female, for about 8 years. We've been through a lot together, and for the past year and a half, I've supported her through her infertility journey. N has been through 2 rounds of IVF, but unfortunately, nothing has worked. She has PCOS and can't seem to get pregnant at all. We both started our relationships around the same time, and in the past, I told her that I planned to start trying for a baby by the end of last summer. I even asked if she'd want to know if I got pregnant, and she said I could tell her. A couple of months ago, her second round of IVF failed, and understandably, she was devastated. She told me she didn't want to discuss pregnancies when we met, so we didn't. At that point, I already knew I was pregnant, but I kept it to myself. About 2 weeks later, N called me with news. Doctors had identified a possible cause for why IVF wasn't working for her, and she had started treatment with plans to try again in a month. I was thrilled for her, and we scheduled a time to meet up in about 10 days. Since she was the one to bring up the topic again, I decided I would tell her about my pregnancy during our meetup. I was already 10 weeks along, and with a public announcement coming soon, I wanted her to hear it directly from me. When we met, we talked about her situation for a bit, and then I told her I was pregnant. Her reaction was unexpectedly cold. She just said, "Oh, congratulations then," followed by, "That was fast, huh?" Her tone caught me off guard, but I tried to give her grace, considering everything she's been through. Although I hoped she might be happy for me, I understood, and I gave her time and space, not reaching out for a month. A month later, I texted her to ask how an exam at work had gone. In response, she sent me a 4-minute-long audio message saying she was offended that I'd shared my pregnancy news after she specifically asked me not to discuss that topic. She also said she didn't want to hear about it from me or see me for a while. Her message was a shock. I explained that since she had brought up her treatment again, I assumed she was optimistic and would be able to share in my happiness. I was hurt that she seemed to be deciding when and how we could be friends. That was a month ago, and we haven't spoken since. I think about her often and worry about how she's doing, but I'm also hurt that she doesn't want to be part of my life or my babies. If she does decide to reach out again, I'm not sure if resuming our friendship would be healthy. So, am I the jerk? Additional info. We didn't meet just to talk about her treatment. We had set up the meetup earlier since we were both on summer holiday and couldn't meet before. When we get together, we usually talk about everything going on in our lives. At that time, she was not undergoing an IVF treatment. Doctors had found an infection in her uterus, which they thought might be preventing her embryos from implanting, and she was being treated for it with antibiotics. No hormones were involved, just antibiotics, and she was responding well, with plans for another IVF round soon, this time with much better odds. It was a big development, but she was feeling impatient. How did I tell her? When we met up, we started by discussing her life in general, not anything medical, just catching up. At one point she asked, "How about you? What's new?" I told her I had something to share, and she immediately guessed, "You're pregnant." She likely remembered I had planned to start trying by then, so I confirmed, yes. Her reaction was cold. I only talked about my pregnancy when she asked a few questions, and then we moved on to other topics. She told me about her treatment progress with the antibiotics and mentioned she was considering surrogacy. As always, I listened and was there for her. After that, I didn't bring up my pregnancy again, nor did I send her any ultrasound pictures, and I gave her plenty of space. I hope this clarifies some things. Not the jerk. It's tough. I'm very sympathetic to her pain and the stuff she's going through, but she was going to find out eventually. She was probably never going to be emotionally ready to hear you tell her directly, but the alternative was for her to find out via social media, as you said in your post, or for you to just turn up to a hangout one day visibly pregnant. There was no nice way for her to find out, and you tried to do it in the least painful way possible. She has to work through those feelings and appreciate that you tried your best here. It is what it is. It's not her fault that she can't get pregnant naturally, obviously, but she can't spend the rest of her life resenting people who do get pregnant, or at least if she does, privately resent it. And if this is something she can never get over, she has to find ways to manage that feeling and not to express it publicly. Right. It's not her fault that she's having trouble getting pregnant, but it's also not OP's. I completely agree that she was never going to be emotionally ready to hear that. She needs to understand that just because she's struggling right now, that doesn't make OP less deserving of happiness. Life still goes on regardless. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. That said, try to be patient with her. I've known people going through struggles like hers, and it basically breaks them mentally. It's quite possible that down the road, she will realize that you were in an impossible situation and that she treated you badly. Am I the jerk for not treating my stepkids equal to my son? When my husband and I got married, we had an extensive prenup, and we agreed that we would each be responsible for providing for our own kids. He came from a marriage where his ex-wife milked him for cash, and I also liked the idea of separate finances. We each pay our own bills, groceries, and the mortgage we split 40-60, him 60, me 40, based on the fact that he has 2 kids and I have 1. I understand that to some people it might seem a bit roommate-ish, but I've loved it and I think it works out great. I don't care about the money he wastes golfing because it's his money and not mine, and I can get expensive sushi all the time. Growing up, my parents would always yell at each other about finances, nitpicking each other's spending. When my husband and I got married, I was in grad school and he worked in finance. He lost his well-paying job and now makes 50% less, whereas my career has flourished in recent years. My son turns 15 soon and he's been asking for a Model 3. I plan on getting it for him because I think he deserves it. My husband recently came to me upset because my son was talking about how excited he is to get the car. That upset his step-siblings who haven't and won't be getting cars. My husband said he wants to change how our household bills are split. He wants me to pay 80% and him 20%. His reasoning is because with his pay cut and his ex-wife still taking a large chunk in child support, he isn't able to golf or live the same lifestyle as before. He also wants me to buy each of my stepkids a car this Christmas. I basically told him he's out of his mind, and he complains that his ex-wife used him for cash and made him pay all of the bills, but that's what he's trying to do to me. He didn't really know how to respond to that, but isn't talking to me now. I kind of find it funny that when I made significantly less money, he had no issue with our finances being split, but now that he's the one making less, it's an issue. Am I the jerk for not wanting to buy my stepkids cars and fund the family? He wants me to top off their college funds too. Edit. I am a positive role model in my stepkids' lives. We're pretty close. I go to their sporting events, plan their birthday parties, etc. But they have 2 living parents who are more than capable of fully supporting them if they tried hard enough. So I just don't feel like it's my place. The kids all know that my husband is responsible for my stepkids' cars and college, and I'm responsible for my sons. They're just disappointed with their dad right now because their friends all have dads who bought them nice cars, which has made my husband kind of mad. I don't think having cars and college funds are a necessity though. More of a nice thing to have if your parents can afford it. So I feel like my husband should either step up to the plate and get a better job or get off my back. Not the jerk. And you've made super fair points about how he was fine with the split when he was making more. I don't see why you should have to finance his lifestyle now. But I don't see how you two are going to maintain your marriage at this point unless your husband comes around and is back to being fine with the original agreement. Imagine your stepdaughter despises you, wants nothing to do with you, but demands you pay for her college. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap and come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.